pretending anyone's got a longer title than that, but thank you for having me. I admit when the email came through, because I am a behavioural scientist, but a people behavioural scientist, I thought it was a bit of a joke. I'm topic agnostic when it comes to horses, so this is a completely new field for me, but I do know people and I do know behaviour change. So in terms of my journey, it's been really interesting to date. I currently, just as a bit of background, sit on the Equine Welfare Advisory Group at Racing Victoria. That came about after Jen Hughes, who some of you may know, went along to one of our training sessions actually at Behavioural and said, hey, we need someone who knows people and behaviour change, because that is the missing piece that we have on this board. And that led to me actually sitting on the board. Since then, the welfare group at Racing Victoria, has actually been engaging more and more. So they've been working with the likes of Zoos Victoria to learn what do we need to do to engage people in doing things differently, to understanding what do we do, to change the behaviours both internally and externally. Now, I know some of you might be interested today on the external audience and how we get the audience doing what we want them to do, but actually I'm going to twist it around and say, what can you do to help change what's happening on the outside? Just to finish off, a brief introduction. I wish I could have rewritten this actually, because on Tuesday I had the great pleasure to spend the day at the International Forum for the Aftercare of Racehorses, and I had a visit to Spring Creek. Tuesday was actually the first time I'd actually patted or touched a horse. And that experience for me was just wonderful. And it made me realize this is why people are doing what they're doing. The horses were magnificent. And it's a world that I've never been a part of other than going to the races. So I'm probably part of your audience and who you're looking at. But I really applaud Racing Victoria for the work that they've done and the strategy and everything that they're working towards. So I've used up a minute or so just to say that, so I need to get my backside in gear. I'm just going to go through a little bit around Behavioural Australia, who we are. I want to say, why behavioural science? Why should you be considering probably bringing in this people element into your field? I'm then going to talk a bit of Behavioural 101 really around understanding behavioural influences, aka it's not just education. And then we did do if I've got time, I'll go through one of the projects that we're working with Racing Victoria on equine welfare post-racing with one of the other partners. So Behavioural Australia, we're based at Monash University. We are the largest behaviour change unit in Australia at a university. We work across a whole range of areas, environment being one of them, health. My expertise actually is more around health and clinical health. You'll be amazed how many parallels there are in the clinical world to this world in terms of who needs to do what differently and some of the issues. And we also deliver a lot of training and things like that. We are industry-based, so while we sit in a university, everything we do is applied. We want to make the world a better place and engage people in creating that change. So why behavioural science? Well, I'll read from the screen there, but human behaviour lies at the root of many of the greatest challenges and opportunities faced by society today. I mean, we can go through from climate change through to exactly what we've got here in terms of engaging the wider audience into racing, and understanding the equine welfare is actually at the centre of what we do. Behavioural science helps us to understand the things that really matter to people. These insights help us to develop programs that influence behaviour in a way that leads to positive change. So what are behaviours? And I've got this up here on purpose because you'd be amazed how many people go through our training and they start talking about attitudes. Behaviours are observable events, things we can physically see. So here we have, say, a veterinarian about to give an injection. On the right there, a bit of a plug. We've got the off-the-track community. So I'd hope that would be an owner, maybe, signing up to the OTT community. Bit of a plug. If you are in the audience and in Victoria, please check out the website. So traditional approaches to behaviour change, and some of you may think it's a very linear process. If we do one thing, someone will or tell someone what they should do. They will then move on to this, and then it changes. I think the easiest thing I can say there is anyone who has children and have more than one child probably knows that doesn't work. Things without people work brilliantly. You add people to the mix and it all goes haywire. Bit like this. So actually, this is what we deal with, especially even in the area of welfare and equine welfare. It's a very complex problem. It's a systemic problem that we need to kind of take a systems lens to, but behaviour change and behavioural insights can actually help start making some of that movement within it. But there is no magic pill, and it's not a silver bullet. What we're really looking to do is increase the odds that people are going to do the things that we want them to do. And again, that can apply to both within the industry and outside of the industry to try and reduce some of that negative press that we heard about, which is already going in the right direction. So just up here, we have the BWA method, the Behavioural method, and this is just a process that we work through, really. So we spend a lot of time actually understanding the problem, who needs to do what differently and how, and in what circumstances a lot of the time, because what will work in Australia probably won't work in Japan or even in Europe. So understanding the audience, the context, the things that are going on. Those compliers, we speak very, probably the language we use, it's a bit like your language. It's learning a new way of doing things. But compliers, who's doing the things that we want them to do, those positive things, and the non-compliers, what goes through their mind, what drives what they're doing. From that, that's where the deep dive comes in, of really understanding those drives of behaviour. And then the one thing that actually I really want to get into, so if anyone is keen out there, actually trialling some interventions, let's start testing some of this stuff and learning from each other about what we can do around the world to help create better equine welfare across the industry. So understanding behavioural influences. By the way, a lot of this is available on our websites and everything like that. This really is a quick 101, so please do come and speak to me if you'd like to know more. You'll see from there, this is 8 behavioural influences. There's actually a lot more, but these are kind of known as the main drivers of behaviour. Basically, the ones that people tend to go to is around capability and opportunity. They lead to things like skills, how can we upskill a person, or education. So how can we teach someone what to do? But what you'll see in this diagram is all of those drivers on the left that are in orange, they're kind of your unconscious drivers. And actually, if we can understand some of those around the habits and biases, the context of what people are doing, if we can really get into those things, that's where we can start creating interventions that are going to have more change. And then as I've got here, comms and engagement, that's where we tend to do things. Although I must admit, having spent the last few days here, language is really important. Some of the language you use, what did I hear the other day? Breaking the horse in. Stop using it. It doesn't translate to the outside and it sounds awful. So some of this language, just by changing, it's not changing what you do in your actions, but that can actually do a big thing to actually change the perception of the industry to the outside world and bring people in, I guess. So even though it's a bit of an inside world, think what could I do differently to actually engage people in a little bit more. Incentives are a huge thing through the disincentives. One of the hardest things to actually bring in is regulation, which you'll know. I think that actually the industry, there is a need for regulation to try and stop some of those poor behaviours and things that you don't want, and you probably are all aware of what they should be, but it is considered, as it said there, it's harsher and it's very, very difficult to put in place. So what's that low-hanging fruit that we can actually do to try and help push people to where we need to be? So just briefly before I finish up, as I mentioned, we've been working with Racing Victoria and now Mel and the team in the equine welfare post-racing. The strategic plan, which took a long time to come together, but I think there's some really good stuff in there, and it has a lot of actions and observable things to measure whether or not they're actually hitting those things over the years. Both myself at Behavioural, we've been working with, and one of our consortium partners actually is Behaviour Change, the Shannon Company. The Shannon Company are a social media company, they're a comms company, and they create narratives and things that try and give that overarching message, which can then help to underpin behaviour change on a wider scale. So I won't go fully through this, but basically the challenge they're trying to solve is not enough horses are retiring from racing to lead a happy and healthy life, which we all have a responsibility for. The research that we did, so we did surveys, spoke to people and everything, and some of the main things, it probably won't come as any surprise, but some of the barriers as to why people don't bother putting investment into racehorses is, I've already spent a lot on this horse. Why do I want to spend more money? I was unfortunate enough to be at the tennis a couple of weeks ago. I say unfortunate, I loved it, and brilliant to be at the Australian Open. But 2 rows in front of me, there was actually a horse owner. This was very ironic. I didn't say anything, but I listened into the conversation, and it basically went along the lines of, oh, that nag, you know, that we just need to get rid of it. You know, and that was a horse owner talking about their horse. It really, it hit me, really, and to listen to them for then half an hour moan about the trainer and what a useless, I won't repeat, person they were, et cetera, et cetera. So it exists internally as well as externally, and me being a person in the public listening to that, what do you think then that does to the industry? So these types of barriers are the things that really we can then lynch onto and start looking at interventions. My time is up, so I'll go through fairly quickly. But what we want to do from the research that we've done is really make that link between healthy, happy retired horses and an easy transition into that aftercare life. And obviously one of those big things is making sure that they're looked after, as it was mentioned before, from birth through to their retirement. The Shannon Company have then been working with Racing Victoria on the power of the narrative to align the organisation to give that overall message that then can be used to actually engage a lot of actual interventions on the ground. And they do that through this series of things, which is to empathise, acknowledge then where we've come from. So empathise that people, not everyone is engaged. There's something that we need to be doing. Acknowledge what the scale of the problem is, and then take a position. And RV's position very much is that on this issue, they want to be known as organisation that has equine welfare at the centre of everything that it does. Take control then. So say what we're going to be doing and how we're going to be doing it. So it's defining then that human solution that can then say, this is how we're going to be doing it, and being very practical about those things. Because often you see a lot of those very high up statements, they're not going to do anything. You need practical solutions that are kind of on the ground. It takes a long time to get there, but having this overarching thing means that you can take people on that journey, both within the organisation and external to the organisation. I'll finish there. That was probably the quickest 101 behaviour change with a lot of other things thrown in that I've ever done. But thank you very much. And thank you so much for asking me to be here today. It's been absolutely fascinating, and I'm happy to learn more, and I'll be around for today and tomorrow if anyone would like to have a chat and learn a little bit more about behaviour change. Thank you.